Here are some statistics about women in tech. Women make around 27% of the tech industry workforce globally. This number has been growing but remains significantly lower than men's representation.
Women hold approximately 26.7% of executive and leadership positions in the industry.
Women earn only 18% of the computer science bachelor's degrees in many regions.
Women-founded startup received only 2.1% funding from venture capitals.
Companies with more diverse team, including higher female participation, tend to outperform their peers by 30% profitability.
Nearly 50% of women leave the industry before the age of 35. And most importantly, they leave it because of less opportunities, lacking in mentorship, and because of the office culture. That's all from Statistics today. Please stay with us for conversations on the street. Welcome to the Saurabh and Sagar Show. In today's episode, we are going to talk about women in tech. You have come up with some myths regarding women in tech. So let's start with those myths. One of the myths that you have put out there is the gender gap in tech is reducing.
While progress is being made, I think the pace of change is still slow. Many reports indicate that significant gender disparity persists, especially at higher levels of management and in specialized technical roles.
The next myth is women are not interested in tech career.
Sagar, there are evidence which shows many women are interested in tech, but faces societal biases, lack of role model, and limited support, which can deter them from pursuing a field in technology.
Another myth is women in technology are mostly in non-technical roles. Is that correct, Saurabh?
Yeah, that's correct. While it's true that women are often represented in non-technical roles such as HR, marketing within tech companies, many women work in highly technical positions. For example, women have made significant contribution in the field of data science, cybersecurity, and software engineering.
Another myth is that women don't have skills for technical leadership.
Saga, this stereotype is misleading. Study shows that women possess equal technical capabilities, and those in leadership positions often outperform expectations. The challenge lies in overcoming biases that prevent them from being promoted into leadership roles.
We now think that all the companies, particularly in technology, have fixed the gender gap issue. Is that true?
Well, I think many tech companies are working on diversity and inclusion initiatives. The representation gap remains wide. Ongoing efforts are needed to build more inclusive workplace culture that retain and empower women.
What about pay?
Despite awareness campaigns, a gender pay gap still exists in tech. On an average, a woman earns around 84% of every dollar earned by men in similar roles, varying by location and level of experience.
The last myth is that tech is not a family-friendly industry.
I think this stereotype has been changing. Companies are increasingly offering flexible work arrangement, generous parental leave, and supportive policies that enable work-life balance. However, these practices are not yet uniform across different industries. Sagar, why don't we get women in tech from the industry to talk on this topic?
Welcome to the show, Sophie Brown. Sophie Brown has 10 years of experience, out of which 4 years is in IT, predominantly in sales across Dell, AWS, and Snowflake. She has been a 2024 finalist Rising Star for Women in ICT, and she describes herself as passionate about caring for people and always searching for ways to evolve, grow, and inspire. Welcome to our show, Sophie.
Thank you for having me. What a welcome.
I'm going to start with your quote from LinkedIn because I'm going and sniffing all over your LinkedIn. This was 2 years ago. And the quote that you had was, I was unemployed and on benefit. I had no idea what life was going to look like. And my bank account that I had drained to zero. So this was 4 years back. And from there to now at Snowflake as a sales account executive, that's an astonishingly good journey. And that to moving into IT. So tell me about the journey from there to where you're here, what you have gone through, Why did you select IT? That's a really inspiring journey.
Yeah, cool. Well, let me give you a little bit of backstory to that. And I forgot that that post was up there. So in 2020, January 2020, I decided to move to London because my family's from there. I was born there, and thought I'd give it a go in the big city. Fast forward a couple months, we were in lockdown. I was staying in my auntie's two-bedroom basement flat in Wimbledon with her and my cousin and their little cavapoo named Squid. I had obviously no job. I'd been having some interviews, but naturally when lockdowns were imposed, everyone had a hiring freeze. So yeah, I was basically doing nothing. And I saw New Zealand opening up sort of around May time. It may have been a little bit sooner. And I really wanted to just get on with my life, just find a full-time job, start working, start building a career. And so I decided to cut my losses in London and come back to New Zealand. When I first came back, I was unemployed on the benefit, I posted it on LinkedIn. And the first job that I got was in a customer service role at a motor vehicle company. And I did that for about 6 months. And from there, I ended up getting an interview at Dell as an inside sales representative. And I remember that interview. I went into the interview and said to, his name was Josh, who became my manager. I said, I don't have the experience you're looking for, but here's the things that I do have, and here's what motivates me, and here's why I think you should hire me. And lo and behold, he hired me. So that's sort of what kicked everything off. And then, yeah, it just grew and grew from there. I really enjoyed working in sales. I really enjoyed working with people and talking to people. And honestly, would excuse the pun, but it's really snowballed from there, and here I am now.
Why did you choose Dell?
Yeah, so good question. So my dad actually works for Dell, which most people wouldn't be too keen on saying. However, my experience was he'd been there for years, since I was much younger, and had built relationships with people that used to be my dad's boss and things. And when they had a role opening in New Zealand, they were basically testing having an inside sales rep in country. My dad's old boss called him and says, I hear Sophie's back in country. Would she interview for this role? And so it was sort of one of those opportunities where I was like, I actually have nothing to lose, but this could be super beneficial to me and my career, because the automotive industry wasn't where I wanted to stay. It was just a means to be able to have some money and start saving and start getting back up on my own 2 feet.
When I was growing up, I had a aspiration to become a football star.
I love it.
My hero was Pele, and I couldn't even imagine that I would be in IT. I used to hate computers, and my dad would say that, hey, you should be focusing on computers. I said, no. But see, now I'm ended in computers, in software, in a SaaS company. Growing up, what was your dream? What you thought you would aspire to become?
Yeah, growing up, I wanted to be an actress all my life. I was very into the arts, singing, dancing, playing guitar, playing piano, getting up on stage, in the theatre. So that was me. And when I was a teenager, it still sort of was the case. But my parents were saying, it's a very insecure industry to get into. There's no guarantees. Hardly anyone is able to do anything with that. So while you do have these big dreams, think about what you can fall back on. And so at that time, I took a year between school and going to university, and I was traveling a bit, and I sort of thought, actually, I'd quite like to, I guess, have something that I could say that I'd achieved, that I'd worked really hard at. And so I did a marketing and political science degree, which also has nothing to do with sales, but there is not really a sales degree you can do. I guess marketing's probably the closest thing you can get to it. And yeah, it was sort of a pipe dream where it was always in the back of my head of maybe I'd do it one day. But I like to think that sales is a good intersection of, storytelling, talking to lots of people, not necessarily putting on personas, but, you need to go into meetings, especially when you're talking with executives, with confidence, being assured of yourself. And I think that's probably what my background in the arts prepared me for very well.
Sophia, I can relate to, my 13-year-old daughter, and who wants to become an actress. Uh, and she wants to do performing arts. I think so much that when she was 5 and 6, she opened a YouTube channel and she started recording herself, and like she's very camera friendly. And I am being typical Indian that, hey, study, can you come into IT, join? There's a lack of women in IT. Yeah, I think you should definitely pursue your dreams, but life will take you whatever.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm stoked with where I've been able to get to in my career. I mean, it's really only just starting. There's always a part of you that goes, the thing that I really wanted to do when I was younger may have worked out, but I also took a look at myself and was like, do I want to be working a hospitality job or something like that while waiting for my big break? Realistically, I prefer to have a bit more financial security than that. And so it just wasn't going to be viable for me. But honestly, I think your 20s is really for trying those things out. I'm just really happy with where I've ended up. So yeah, couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Well, that's a great line. 20s, like my sibling Sagar at 40s, trying something new like this shows.
Yeah, and I love it. But the thing is, like, in your 20s, you don't, I mean, some people have kids in their 20s, but you have a lot less responsibility. You have a lot less debt weighing over you. You can take a lot more risks and a lot bigger risks, right? Because you don't have people that you need to feed back at home, and you don't have people relying on you. So yeah, I don't know. I think people decide where their life's going to take them, as long as you're being intentional about it.
That's great. So, Sophie, congratulations on being a finalist for the Women in Data Award. Can you tell us about your journey, how you became involved in the data field?
Yeah, sure. So I guess starting off at Dell, sort of this, on premise, I was selling computers and laptops, and I'd say I was selling servers and storage, but I still don't know how to quote up a server. Going from there, I really enjoyed that, but it was very transactional. It was just filling a need when one was required. It didn't have this element of transformation. It was a new generation laptop that came out or something that was a bit higher spec. And then from there, AWS approached me as they were growing the team here in New Zealand. At first, I was sort of like, when you're selling on-premise equipment, cloud is the disruptor, is the one that you're fighting against. And I was like, oh, I don't know. Also very early in my career, so didn't know if I'd demonstrated enough loyalty or enough value. All these sort of old thoughts that we think make people great people in a role. But I interviewed and I ended up getting the role. And it was honestly a really good step for me. I learned so much, I guess, about truly understanding business challenges and being able to align tech to that. And then from there, I guess being at AWS and one of their largest partners in the world is Snowflake. I had a few mutual customers with Snowflake while at AWS and really saw the value that it was delivering for customers and just how much it was disrupting the data warehousing market initially. And so gained a real interest for it there. And then managed to get a job at Snowflake as well, which was really awesome. So I don't think it was necessarily the data that inspired me, but I think it was the transformation to businesses that data can really have that makes this job awesome for me.
That's great. I think data is one of the key driver for organization moving to cloud.
100%.
I think in a way you connected the dots.
Women in tech, we see so many events and so much of emphasis on women in tech and women in data. What is the reason for that emphasis on a particular gender? And being a woman, why do you think such events are critical?
Yeah, good question. I mean, historically, if we look at technology organizations, leadership, employees, board members, historically were always predominantly male. I think in every industry, we come from a history where women didn't work, right? Women didn't have the right to work. Women didn't even have the right to vote. So this, I guess, societal change that's been growing for some time now and, still isn't perfect, signifies where women have come from, which is being in the house, not being able to work, taking care of the family. It's been a really empowering movement for women to have a seat at the table, really. I think to truly understand people and to truly serve people, you need to have representation from every gender, from every race, to truly unlock who those customers are, because your customer could be anyone. And I guess, bringing all the events forward, making sure that women are seen as important, I think is a critical part to that.
You made a very important point. We predominantly saw women as just taking care of the house. That's really something which resonates with me because in my house, my wife decided to join Austrian Army at the age of 42. She was discouraged by her relatives in India saying, "Hey, this is not what you are supposed to do. You're supposed to look at your household, take care of your husband, take care of your child." And she was determined, and she said, "No, I'm doing this. This is my dream. I want to go." At the age of 42, she went and did her military training, where young men in their 20s cannot survive for a week. She went and did the training for 11 months. So I'm super proud. And that tells how women are stronger in my household. She is stronger than me when it comes to mental as well as physical. If she's watching this, I love you, Kasturi.
That's incredible. I think what that also shows is that you can, as I was saying before about being in your 20s is the time to take the biggest risks. You can take risks at any point in your life. You can change careers at any point in your life. Honoring where you are today and saying, I actually don't really like what I'm doing right now and I want to change that. I think your wife's story is incredible. That's so awesome.
My wife was a dentist in India. She had a great career in the dental field. And when we migrated to Australia, the way the medical industry is, as an outsider, you can't work here without going through a licensing exam. It's a hard exam to crack, and I had a 5-year-old daughter that time. Now we have 2 kids. Then my wife chose to take care of the 2 kids, and she sacrificed her dental career. And now she's preparing for the dental exam. She supported my career and the kids. And which is a great, you're not getting rewarded for the work and the salary, but it takes courage to give up your career to support the family and, and still respectful. So thanks to my wife too, as well.
One of the things that's important is, all of these career choices, choosing to have kids, everything like that. It should always be down to the person, not what society tells us is the right thing to do. We've seen this emergence of stay-at-home dads. And I absolutely love it. Like, a couple should be able to choose whatever works best for them. And sometimes, it is one person having a career while others looking after the kids and then maybe switching and doing something different. Yeah, having that choice is super important.
When I got married to my wife, I was 27, my wife was 22, and she was a medical student. And after marriage, she became pregnant, and my daughter was born when she was still studying. So I took care of my daughter for 2-3 years at home, working from home, while my wife was going to the medical college for studying.
Supporting the women, we love to see it.
And now my daughter says I haven't spent enough time with her during childhood because I came here and she spent more time with mom. She doesn't remember the earliest childhood time when I spent time with her.
Yeah, funny.
How important is the mentorship for women in data?
Yeah, good question. I do think it's really important. I think the knowledge sharing and the learning through other people's experience is critical to uplift others. I haven't been through an official mentorship program. I do have women who I've worked with in my tech roles where I've learned so much from them, so would consider them a mentor. Understanding their challenges, understanding where they've come from has been really beneficial to really accelerate my career. When I was at Dell, I also had the opportunity to be a mentor in a mentorship program. It wasn't necessarily to somebody in the technology space, but even still, I got partnered with this amazing person. She's based in Sydney. And she was going through university and didn't really know what she wanted to do with her life. And it wasn't for me to answer that for her, but to enable her with sharing my experience, sharing the challenges I've faced, and sharing the questions that I've asked myself as well. I don't think she really had necessarily a role model in that space that she could really rely on to sort of soundboard off and have those conversations with. So we're still friends today. We still talk, and we continued on past the mentorship program. And it was so fulfilling, I think, for both of us. We actually ended up meeting in person when I was in Sydney, I think last year. So yeah, I do think it's a really key part of uplifting others, especially young talent as well. You know, people that don't necessarily have all the experience to lean on, having people in your corner with that experience to be able to share with you is super, super critical.
I think I was doing some research on the women in tech, and there was a myth around a lack of role model, like women being a role model in, especially in tech and data field. We see that it's heavily male dominated.
Yeah.
There's a barrier from women entering into the tech field where they don't see enough role models. It's growing. I hope we have more women role models in tech and data. So
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really hard for someone to see themselves working in a field that they can't see anyone like them, right? They'll just see that as a challenge and a door they need to break down. And I think one thing you touched on that's super important is being able to have those role models that you can lean on. I found that even in my career, I've met women who don't feel encouraged to uplift other women, whether it's for their own personal gain, whether it's because they feel intimidated. I don't know. I think there's a multitude of reasons, but yeah, it's pretty sad to see, and when it happens, it's quite disheartening. But yeah, I think having those key people who demonstrate who you want to be and have attributes of who you want to be is one way to really get people into an industry.
I was in a meeting, and this is last month. Out of 21 people, only one was woman. And this is 2024. That really surprised me. We are in 2024 and we still have that disparity between the two genders.
A lot of meetings that I go into, I am the only woman. It doesn't faze me anymore. It used to be a bit daunting, but like you, people are people. And I do agree that the most qualified person should be equipped with getting a role. But I think the one thing to counter that is that people of other genders or races may not have had the same opportunities to get in that place. So I think the question that we should really be asking is, how do we uplift everybody to ensure that they can have the same access to education, the same access to different industries, to understand where they think they might best contribute to those societies. I mean, we've done a lot of work in terms of diversity and inclusion, in terms of organizations really doing the work to ensure that people as a whole are truly represented. But it's a progress thing, right? I don't think the work suddenly stops, but yeah, it's a journey that we're still on.
girls normally, even they land on a job in IT, they are more into non-technical roles. I have a lot of female friends and they are into HR or marketing, finance, but not into the tech, not like a programming or, tech architecture role. So what, in your mind, is a barrier from women entering into the more tech field and more into tech roles?
Women in STEM specifically, because I'm also I'm sales, right? I'm never going to pretend that I'm a technical person, but I think the STEM fields have predominantly been influenced and represented by men. I think when I was at university, I look back and I had a lot of friends that were doing science degrees. So I have seen this shift in interest and inspiration to get into a role from, it just being a male heavy to more women actually having an interest in it. I think it starts at early education, right? It's allowing kids to experiment with lots of these different topics and, having fun learning about science, having fun learning about technology, teaching kids and letting them try those things to see if that's really what they want to do.
And I wanted to share about my daughter, so is in grade 7 now, and she's a great student in maths. She has won few medals as well in primary school.
Amazing.
But the interesting point is she don't like it. I think just the peer pressure in school. If she sees other girls, like boys getting good grades in math, not girls, and she's no, math isn't my favorite subject. Maybe performing arts, and I just trying to explain, no, let's leverage on your strength and build a career. But yeah, it's hard for me as a dad to convince her about her strength and why you should not choose, like, why you should choose maths over performing arts, or continue using performing art, but also continue your, your strengths in mathematics. So I see as a society, as in school, like there's a bit of divide, like,
Yeah.
just for boys and maybe girls, performing arts, dance, and or literature.
Yeah, I remember when I was doing dance at high school, there was, I think, in my second year of high school, there was maybe 3 boys in my class. And then by year 12, year 13, there was 0, which just goes to show you the influence that it has. I mean, I was the same as your daughter. I had no interest in science. I was above average at maths, but at the same time, it just really didn't interest me. I just loved dancing and getting on the stage. Exposure is the most important thing, right? Like, we shouldn't remove choice from people and children to be able to do whatever they want to do. But as long as they have the information to make the decision, and also ensuring that they stay well-rounded in lots of different areas, not just for what they want to focus on or what they enjoy, but also to understand lots of different areas of life and different areas that we can lean into, whether it's a career, whether it's an interest, whether it's a hobby, all those kind of things.
So I need an advice from you, Sophie. And what should I tell my daughter so that she is convinced to make a career in tech?
I have a good response to that. I don't think you should convince your daughter to go in tech. Let her make the choices. As a parent, we are here to give them all the information and let them then say, hey, I want to do that. Let them blossom and let them take whatever path they want to. We are just here to support them and give them the information that they need.
I agree to your point that we should let children choose their career, like
Yeah.
not
I think
force it.
as parents, you can only want the best thing for your kid. And like Sagar, you said that they're your wishes at the end of the day. But I think if you dial it back to, you want your kid to be happy, healthy, enjoy life, and have fun doing it, who cares? They might have 5 careers in their lifetime. I mean, we've come from a place where people, once they had one career, that was what they did for the rest of their lives. I could still go into acting in 10 years' time. Who knows? Sagar, I'm not sure about a football career, but you never know.
I see that we need to change, we need to do some change in education where women or girls are showed what the opportunities are in tech. That's, I think, number one. We need to change the culture in our own houses. And then the third is the corporation itself, where women feel welcomed inside the community.
You've hit the nail on the head there. I think a lot of organizations are doing work to ensure that more people are considered when being hired, when going up for promotions. I do see an opportunity for technology organizations to be putting themselves in front of people at university, people at high schools, facilitating educational programs to kids.
I do interviews. I get resumes, and even in resumes, you'll see there's a lot of males compared to women.
I can't remember the statistics, but I read something somewhere that men will usually apply for a role that they're underqualified for, and women will only go for roles where they're overqualified. They won't take risks and go for roles where they might not necessarily have all the skill sets, but they sure as hell would be able to figure it out just as good as anyone else, which I probably do not fit in the band camp of, given my first experience with applying for Dell with no technology experience. But yeah, I think enabling people to take the risks and go for the roles, because there's been this emergence of companies hiring the right person rather than a specific skill set. And I think that speaks highly to having the right people in a company is way more important than having a skill set, because people can learn skills. I mean, look at your wife. At 42, she joined the army. Like, there was no stopping her. So you can train people on skills, but you can't necessarily train people to be good people and be good employees and be good for company culture. And I think that is something that is much more important than necessarily having the most qualified person.
What would be your advice for a woman who is entering or aspiring to grow in the tech field?
Good question. Majority of people, and if we talk about women specifically, majority of women in technology companies and in data companies want to help other women, want to uplift them, and want to welcome them into an industry. Everybody has LinkedIn. It's basically a business social media now. My advice would be to find women in your area, no matter where you live, and reach out to them and ask them questions and just say, hey, can we chat about your experience? I'd love to understand more about where you've come from. And to be fair, I have no hiring power, but I would very happily talk to any other women who are looking to get into a technology role, into a sales role, into a data role, and help them understand a bit more about the industry. And any advice I could give, I'd be more than happy to give that. But yeah, I'd say it's just reaching out to people, networking, getting to understand the industry. And if it's something that you're considering, then yeah, why not try applying for some roles? Because even if you don't get one, like, you'll still hopefully get some feedback of your interview and understand how you can upskill better, and just keep trying in those ways.
Awesome. Thanks, Sophie.
We are going to end with a rapid fire. This is a fun segment where I ask questions. You shouldn't be thinking, Sophie, because if you think, you won't be able to answer, because a lot of times both the options are correct. Okay. So whatever comes to your mind first between those two options, then I say. So we'll start with very simple. Netflix or movie at cinema hall?
Netflix.
Technical skills or social skills?
Social.
Okay. Sales or consulting?
Sales.
Success or happiness?
I'm going to give you the terrible answer everyone hates of it depends. Because success might be your happiness. Who knows?
Happiness is a practice that you need to practice every day. And success doesn't necessarily give you happiness. That's someone told, but I don't know.
I'm a third word, freedom. So I don't want success or happiness. I want freedom.
Freedom. Okay.
Freedom.
I like that.
Empathy or success?
Empathy.
Empathy.
Closing a deal or building trust?
Closing a deal. Honestly, there's no but also, if you've closed a deal, you've probably built trust.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, but probably.
Electric car or petrol car?
I think electric, but I think electric when we actually have the grids that can sufficiently support everybody going electric. But I do think that it's great that people are driving electric cars, and it's better for the environment, obviously, but it's bringing out new challenges that we haven't figured out how to solve yet. That wasn't rapid fire either, but that was just my thought.
For me, I think my son loves filling the gas in the gas station. He's 5-year-old, so yeah, I think just the experience of going to the petrol station and getting the old school.
I love the smell.
I love it. Sometimes I feel I should drink it.
Yeah. It's one of those things that doesn't taste as it smells, Sagar. You've been warned.
Doesn't taste good, is it? I haven't tried it, so I don't know.
No, I'm just telling you so you don't drink it.
Okay, next one. Lone wolf or a team player?
Team player.
Player.
Butter chicken or pasta? You have to say butter chicken. You can't say pasta when you have Saurabh and Sagar out there.
I love a butter chicken, but Italian is my favorite cuisine. I'm sorry, team. I'm going to have to say pasta.
I'm going to edit this. I think we can put an AI on top of it. Sydney or Melbourne? Has to be Sydney.
Sydney.
Good answer. Saurabh is unhappy, but that's fine. Thank you, Sophie, for spending time with us, giving your time, giving your knowledge, and hopefully through this episode, you will inspire a woman. And if there is anyone out there who want to get mentorship or reach out to someone in data or in technology, you can reach out to Sophie on her LinkedIn page.
Thank you for having me. It's been great chatting.
Thanks, Sophie. We learned a lot from you. That was a great conversation with Sophie. To sum up, there are three things we could do as a society to make this world a better place for women and empower more women in the tech industry. First one is at home. As parents, we could encourage our children, especially our daughters and girls, to take up STEM courses or go to pursue a career in tech. Then in school also, there was an interesting stat that only 18% of female end up taking STEM courses. We could expect some improvement there in schools and universities. And the last point is the corporate role. It is improving. I think there is a lot of inclusion for women in technology, but I think there is still an area of improvement. So I hope we improve and empower more women, and especially women in leadership roles.
If you find this video interesting and helpful, please do like it, put your comments, let us know what you thought about the video, subscribe to our channel, and until next time, please be safe and take care.